I think going public has killed every single company that I've enjoyed the content of. Going public has killed them all, has ruined them all for me, because the pressures are different. The things that they have to do are different. Like, for example, like with the Dungeons and Dragons right now, it makes sense that they're going to push D&D into a digital space and away from, I mean, like we've been talking about, the sales of their books aren't as high as maybe you'd even expect. But I bet that their digital products will sell well, because the margins on them are going to be so astronomically high compared to the physical products that they don't need to sell too much. I mean, we live in a world where recently there was news that the horse item sold in the World of Warcraft item store, the digital horse you could purchase as an optional purchase, that made more money than StarCraft 2 made for Blizzard. Like, they made more money with so much less work and effort than StarCraft 2. And in a world where your goal is not to create good products, your goal is to create products that are profitable and sell and maximize the income, well, of course you're going to keep making horse armor. Of course that's all you're going to make, because why would you make StarCraft 2? It's so much work and effort and energy. It takes forever, and it's a risk. It's a gamble. You know horse armor will sell, and it will sell so much money. Of course it will. So if you become a public company, you have to do that. There's no choice anymore. You don't get to choose. You have to do that. You have to inflate your stock. And that, it kills them. It kills companies, because they don't become about good products anymore. They only care about making money.
Yeah, I mean,
and not just making money, but like the notion of like pleasing stakeholders so that the line is consistently going up. Like that's the thing. Like it's not acceptable while other stock options are making money. Like, it's not acceptable to just, well, guys, we're just going to sit here at $32 a share. And
it's not maximizing.
You're just going to have to wait for 6 years until we finally knock this one out of the park. And then finally we'll have the media coverage to justify charging $280 for our next round of public releases. So
well, it's kind of funny, like, because we were talking about Blizzard Entertainment, and I think they get brought up a lot for a really good reason, because throughout the 2000s, all they focused on, there was this business model that they pioneered, which was the Blizzard guarantee, where you would buy a game that was produced by Blizzard because it would always be good. They would have spent, years and years polishing it, and it made them loads of money. They were not unprofitable. They made lots and lots and lots of cash, huge amounts of money. But then they go public. They get bought out by Activision, and then they start making more money from World of Warcraft. So suddenly, what is acceptable amounts of cash and profit suddenly jumps up, and they have to keep meeting that goal, because as part of a public company, you have these outside stakeholders. You have to please them. You can't ever, the line can't be seen to go stagnant, never mind go down. So you have to make more money than last year. And it creates these pressures that it compounds upon itself. And that's why Blizzard is the company that it is today, because it's not about quality anymore, because it didn't make them enough money compared to just selling more, digital horses.
Yeah. Well, They were making billions of dollars per line, though. I mean, they made a lot of money.
Like, don't get me wrong. I think that making good products just consistently, like spending the time to make good products, is generally actually a really good business model. I think it tends to make a lot of cash.
Absolutely.
But long term, because it's indeterminate things. It's like brand recognition, and like people will purchase it next time because they think it's a good. It's kind of like YouTube, right? You can make like a crazy title and a crazy thumbnail and get loads of clicks, but if the video isn't good enough, if people go, okay, well, this is actually trash, this isn't about, like, the title doesn't represent anything about what's in the video, well, they won't click next time. You could do a crazy title and a crazy thumbnail next time and have the best packaged thing ever. But if the actual substance is bad, people will catch on after a while and they won't buy it anymore. This happens, people fall out of love with brands. It's hard to do, though. Like, it's hard to fall out of love with a brand, but it can happen. And
or like, for example, another one that I've kind of harped on in other interviews and live streams is like the Marvel comic universe right now is just completely imploding because they're releasing a video or a movie that is extremely expensive to produce, and they're releasing one every quarter, and they're just not nearly as funny as they were 10 years ago. Like, we can only handle so much. So you have to have a good a good substrate to sell the shiny horse armor. Otherwise, there's nowhere to sell the shiny horse armor, and that's what gets missed in this kind of mindset when you have pressure.
Yeah. Like I'm very curious as to whether or not World of Warcraft actually makes more money these days with all the monetization that's occurred compared to like 10 years ago, even though 10 years ago it was regarded as a vastly better game. More people played it, and yet maybe it's just not monetized as effectively and aggressively, right?
It probably is close from what I know, because they were just making money off. Oh, keep in mind, when they at their height, they had, I think, 12 million subscribers, and they were making like $15 a month or so per subscriber. I forgot what it was back then. You know, it's gotten way lower. I think it's up to like what, 1 or 2 million now, which is still a lot. Don't get me wrong, but they make a ton of money on. You know, they're all, I mean, you know this term, discourse, they're all whales. Like, if you play World of Warcraft now, you're pretty hardcore. Like, it's not a lot of casuals in that game. As someone who was into World of Warcraft for 10 plus years myself, and I was one of those people who bought the horse armor. I would be buying those special mounts because, you know what? It works. You know, you're in that community, and my friends are there. What's $10-20 for? If I'm spending 40 hours a week in this community, and I'm going to be spending a lot of time on my mount, which you do, I want it to look good, which is really no different than buying a nice car or wearing nice clothes. It's everything that we do in the physical world, just extrapolated to the digital world. It's the same behaviors. And it seems like weird and strange because it's like, ooh, why are you doing that? It's digital. I'm like, well, why did you spend $500 on that, shirt? I mean, you can buy a $10 shirt. You don't need to spend all that money. And like, well, it makes me feel good. Well, there you go.
It's still the same. I mean, ultimately, it is the same kind of. It's the same compulsion that has, for example, Barron's all his whole grognard friends with the wall of third edition books, right? Like people would like, and maybe they're even like, how many like things from those books have they actually played with? Like at a certain stage, you just get them because you love the content. Like you just want more content to own. Like there are definitely things that I have bought, like for miniature wargaming or RPGs. And I've just bought the expansions. I'm not going to play this game with anybody. Like no one wants to play it, but I buy it because I want it. I just want it. And, all right.
I think some percentage of users actually use a lot of the content. Like I had all those 3.5 bucks, and my group and I used probably nearly every book, at least a little bit, that we had. But then again, now I am a game designer, and I was one of the co-designers of PF2. So I'm probably like in a very minority group of people who are very, very deep into game design and tabletop RPGs that is not representative of the typical person, either the typical consumer, whether they would buy it or not in the first place, and whether they would use it after they bought it.
Oh yeah, like I'm gonna keep playing a bard. Like it doesn't matter how many subclasses. I bought books of other subclasses. I'm gonna keep playing a bard every time. I'm not playing anything else. I don't know why I pretend that I will.
There you go, Wizards. Discourse needs a bard only Tasha's expansion. Nothing but bard options.
But it's that compulsion then that WotC, I think that Hasbro are kind of hoping will kick in when things move on to the digital space and they start to sell these items and these skins inside, because they want to sell their horse armor, right? The difference, though, I think, between the kind of product that you buy, like the book, with content in it, versus, say, a sword skin or like a fancy cloak on your character in game, is that with the book, you own it. Like you have it. Like you can put it on your shelf and you can flick it open and read it. Like with World of Warcraft, you could lose access to your account. They could turn it off. And all that money, those thousands of dollars on like all your little penguin, like little pets and your little squire and your horse and your like fancy armor, like it's gone, like they don't know you anything. That's it. It's a license.